Hello and welcome to Just Another Booktube channel, where I talk a bit about books I've recently read covering a variety of genres. Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a horror novel I've just finished, The Cormorant by Stephen Gregory, published in 2013 and is 120 pages long. I picked up The Cormorant after seeing a very positive review of it here on BookTube as well as other places online. And after reading it, I can only ask either what were these people smoking or how much were they paid to give this short novel a good review. The Cormorant is not only the worst horror novel I have read this year so far, but it is also the worst book I have read this year, period. The story starts off with a couple inheriting a small house from a deceased relative, but there is a catch, of course. They must take care of the deceased relative's pet cormorant. Now, the cormorant, for those of you who may not know, is a largish waterfowl. Now, this book suffers most from not only bad and forced writing, but from its characters making stupid choices for no other reason than if they didn't, the following scene of horror, and I use that term very loosely, could not occur. For instance, in the beginning of the book, when the hapless couple received a large crate containing the bird, they decide to open it in their living room. Yes, they open a crate containing a wild animal in their living room, where it of course runs amok, knocking things over and releasing streams of watery feces everywhere about the room. The author wants the reader to intuit that the bird is somehow evil, when it is simply behaving how a wild animal behaves. We are also supposed to accept that the bird and the couple's very young son have a connection that is malevolent, but this is only hinted at and never fully developed. In fact, that is what most of the horror elements in this book come from. Hints of possible malevolence that are not developed any further than simply being hinted at. In a scene on Christmas Eve, when the parents and neighbors get passed out drunk while they should be supervising their child, the boy somehow leaves the house in a blizzard and makes his way to the cormorant's enclosure, where he falls asleep in the bird's nest. It is barely hinted that there was some evil force at work causing this, when in actuality it was nothing more than negligent parenting. The whole book seems like the author had bits and pieces of scenes he thought would be frightening and stitched them together in a bad, hackneyed narrative. The result is a sloppy, poorly written story that contains less horror than an ingrown toenail. The only parts of this book which have any merit are those in which the main character bonds with the bird, teaching it to walk on a leash and going diving for fish and eels, the eels which he feeds to the cormorant, and the fish he feeds to his family. If this had been the story, a man bonding and taming a wild bird, he might have had something interesting and worthwhile here. But the author's desire to write a horror novel far outweighed his capabilities. So there you have it, The Cormorant by Stephen Gregory, the single worst horror book I have read in quite some time, the true horror of which is that someone actually published it. That's all I have for today. Once again, this is Just Another BookTube channel. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.